Ladies and gentlemen, let's be honest, life is hard. Life is not a straight road, it's a battlefield. Every single day you wake up, you're going to face challenges, doubt, fear, failure, rejection. And the truth is, those challenges are not going anywhere. You can't avoid them, you can't hide from them, but you can face them. And the only way to face them is to become mentally strong. Mental strength is not about how much weight you can lift at the gym. It's about how much weight you can carry in your mind, in your heart, in your spirit, and still move forward. Tonight, I want to share with you 10 keys to becoming mentally strong. Let me tell you something, if you don't get control of your mind will control you. And when that happens, you'll find yourself living in a prison, not with walls of concrete, but with walls of fear, doubt, and worry. See, the most dangerous battlefield you'll ever face isn't out there. It's right here, in your head. Everyday thoughts come rushing in, some lifting you up, some pulling you down. And if you don't take charge, if you don't take the wheel, those thoughts will drive you somewhere you don't want to go. Your mind is a powerful servant, but a terrible master. When you guide it, when you discipline it, it can take you places you never dreamed possible. But when you let it run wild, when you let it be influenced by every fear, every doubt, every voice telling you what you can't do, it will hold you hostage. That's why the first step to becoming mentally strong is not letting your thoughts run the show. You run the show. Think about an athlete before a championship game. The stadium is loud, the pressure is high, the expectations are crushing. And yet they stand there calm, focused, because they've already played this game 100 times in their mind. They've visualized the victory. They've trained their mind to believe before the body even moves. That's the power of leading your thoughts instead of following them. But it's not just athletes. It's students, entrepreneurs, parents, leaders. Life is full of voices, and most of those voices aren't cheering you on. They're reminding you of your past failures, your weaknesses, your shortcomings. You're not good enough. You'll never make it. Why even try? If you give those voices space in your head, they'll rent it out for free and never leave. Mental strength means evicting those voices. It means replacing them with belief, with vision, with the truth that you were built for more. Some of you wake up in the morning and the first thing you do is grab your phone, scroll through everybody else's life, and wonder why you don't measure up. That's your mind controlling you. You're feeding it junk before the day even starts. What if instead you woke up and spoke into your own life? Today I'm focused. Today I'm disciplined. Today I'm moving closer to my purpose. It may sound simple, it may sound small, but that discipline, training your mind to hear your own voice first, sets the tone for everything that follows. And listen, I'm not saying it's easy. It takes practice. It takes patience. It takes catching yourself when the negative thoughts creep in and saying, no, not today. You don't get to drive. I'm driving. You have to challenge your own thoughts the same way you'd challenge a stranger who tried to walk into your home uninvited. You wouldn't just let them in. You'd stand at the door and decide who gets access. That's exactly what you have to do with your mind. The truth is, we can't always control what happens to us. Life will throw curveballs. People will disappoint you. Doors will close. But you can always control how you respond. You can always choose the story you tell yourself about the situation. You lose a job. Does that mean you're worthless? Or does that mean a better opportunity is waiting? You fail a test. Does that mean you're not smart? Or does it mean you need to adjust your strategy and try again? That choice, that interpretation, comes from your mind. And when you learn to direct your mind, you turn obstacles into opportunities. I remember reading about a man who survived years in a prison camp. Stripped of freedom, stripped of comfort, stripped of everything except his mind. And you know how he made it through? He chose every day to focus on what he could control, and that was his attitude. He couldn't control the guards, he couldn't control the chains, but he could control his thoughts. He imagined himself free. He imagined himself speaking to others about resilience. And when he walked out of that prison, his body was weak, but his mind was unbreakable. That's the kind of strength I'm talking about. The kind that doesn't depend on circumstances, but on choice. The kind that says, I may not be able to control the storm, but I can control the sail. When you train your mind, you become unstoppable. Fear may knock, but it won't move you. Doubt may whisper, but it won't shake you. Worry may try to settle in, but you'll kick it out because you've built a fortress in your mind that no negativity can break. And here's the beauty of it. When you lead your mind, your life follows. Your decisions get stronger. Your relationships get healthier. Your dreams get clearer. Your path becomes straighter. So the question is, are you leading your thoughts, or are your thoughts leading you? Because if your mind is driving and you're just along for the ride, don't be surprised when you end up in places you never wanted to be. Take the wheel. Decide today that your mind serves you, not the other way around. Because once you get control of that, once you learn to discipline your mind, everything else in life becomes possible. Everybody wants to be strong, but nobody wants to struggle. We all want the victory without the fight, the reward without the sacrifice, the growth without the pain. But life doesn't work that way. Strength and struggle are twins. You can't have one without the other. Diamonds don't just appear, they're made under intense pressure. Muscles don't grow by staying still. They grow when they're stretched, when they're torn, when they're tested. And mental strength, real unshakable mental strength, is forged the same way. When life tests you, when it puts you through heartbreak, failure, disappointment, it's not there to destroy you, it's there to shape you. But in the moment, it never feels like that. In the moment, pain feels like the end. You fail that exam and think your future is over. You lose that job and think your career is finished. The person you love walks away and you think you'll never recover. But that pain is not your end. That pain is your training ground. Think about every scar you carry. Not just the ones on your skin, but the ones on your heart, the ones on your soul. Those scars are not signs of weakness. They're proof that you survived something that tried to break you. They are reminders that you walked through fire and came out standing. Every scar is a chapter of resilience written on your life. But here's the truth: when you're in it, when the pain is fresh, you won't want to hear that. You'll want to give up, to quit, to throw in the towel, and that's natural. That's human. But if you stay in that pain, if you sit with it, if you let it teach you instead of destroy you, you'll come out stronger than you ever imagined. Look at history. Look at the great leaders, inventors, change makers. Almost every one of them went through seasons of pain. Abraham Lincoln lost election after election before becoming president. Oprah Winfrey faced rejection, abuse, poverty, yet she rose. Nelson Mandela spent decades behind bars, stripped of freedom, yet walked out with wisdom and power. Pain was their teacher. Struggle was their sharpening stone. Without it, they could not have carried the weight of their destiny. And let's bring it closer to home. Think about a time in your own life when you thought you couldn't go on. Maybe it was a loss, maybe it was a failure, maybe it was a betrayal. You thought you were done. But here you are. You made it. You didn't just survive, you grew, you learned. You discovered a strength you didn't even know you had. That's why pain is not your enemy. Pain is your instructor. It's the voice that says, you can handle more than you think. You are stronger than you believe. Without pain, you'd never stretch beyond what's comfortable. And if you never stretch, you never grow. But don't mistake me. This isn't about loving pain or pretending it doesn't hurt. Pain hurts. Growth hurts. That's the truth. But you can choose how to respond to it. You can let it make you bitter, or you can let it make you better. You can let it harden your heart, or you can let it strengthen your spirit. That choice is where mental strength is born. So the next time life knocks you down, the next time you feel crushed, remember this: you're not being buried, you're being planted. And when the time is right, all that pressure, all that pain will push you to rise higher than before. Pain is not the end. Pain is the beginning of growth. We live in a world that never shuts up. The noise is everywhere. Social media, television, endless chatter, opinions flying in from every direction. You wake up and before you even take a deep breath, your phone is already screaming at you. News alerts, notifications, messages, everybody pulling at your attention. And here's the truth. If you don't learn to quiet the noise, you'll never hear your own voice. If you don't learn to be alone with yourself, You'll always be dependent on the crowd to tell you who you are. The strongest minds aren't shaped in the noise. They're forged in silence. They're built in the moments when nobody's watching, when nobody's applauding, when nobody's even around. Strength of mind is born when you can sit with yourself and not be afraid of what you hear. That's why solitude is not weakness. It's power. But let's be real, being alone scares people. Some people would rather scroll for hours than spend 10 minutes in silence. Some would rather drown in distraction than face their own thoughts. A study once showed that people would rather give themselves an electric shock than sit quietly with nothing but their mind. Think about that. People are more comfortable with pain than they are with silence. That's because silence forces you to confront the truth. And truth isn't always pretty. But if you want to be mentally strong, you've got to go through that silence. You've got to spend time alone, reflecting, asking yourself questions that no crowd can answer for you. Who am I? What do I stand for? What do I want from this life? These aren't questions you can Google. These aren't questions your friends or family can answer for you. These are questions only silence can bring to the surface. When you learn to be alone with yourself, you discover your own rhythm, your own identity, your own voice. Because let me tell you something, if you don't know who you are when you're alone, the world will try to tell you who to be. And the world doesn't care about your happiness. The world cares about conformity. It wants you to fit in. But if you learn to walk alone, to sit in solitude, you will find that inner compass that never lies. History has shown us time and again that great ideas, great breakthroughs, great clarity don't come in crowded rooms. They come in quiet ones. Writers retreat to empty cabins. Inventors tinker in lonely garages. Leaders withdraw before returning stronger. Why? Because solitude strips away the noise and sharpens the focus. In those quiet hours, the fog clears and vision appears. That's where mental strength is built. When you don't run from yourself, but sit with yourself until you understand. And don't confuse solitude with loneliness. Loneliness is the HE of missing someone. Solitude is the gift of meeting yourself. Loneliness drains you, solitude fills you. Loneliness says, I need others to complete me. Solitude says, I am enough as I am, and when others come, they add to me, not complete me. That shift in perspective is where true strength comes from. Some of the hardest lessons in life are only learned in isolation. The heartbreak that leaves you alone in your room at night, the failure that isolates you because nobody else understands, the disappointment that leaves you standing by yourself. Those are the very moments when you learn resilience. That's when you discover that you don't need the approval of the crowd to keep going. You don't need the applause to keep moving. You've got something stronger inside you, self-belief. When you learn to be alone, you stop being afraid of silence. You stop being afraid of rejection. You stop being afraid of the crowd turning its back on you. Because you've already proven to yourself that you can walk alone and still stand tall. And once you know that, once you feel that strength in your bones, nobody can control you anymore. No crowd can pressure you, no critic can define you, no rejection can break you. So ask yourself, when was the last time you were truly alone with your thoughts? Not scrolling, not texting, not distracted, but truly alone. It might feel uncomfortable at first. It might feel awkward. But that discomfort is the sound of growth. That silence is the soil where strength begins to grow. Because if you can't walk alone, you'll always follow. If you can't sit in silence, you'll always chase noise. But if you can master solitude, if you can face yourself without fear, then you'll carry a mental strength that no crowd can give and no crowd can take away. Most people walk through life exhausted, not because of what they're actually doing, but because of what they're worrying about. They spend their days stressing over the economy, complaining about the weather, obsessing over what other people think of them. They pour energy into things they can't change, and at the end of the day, they wonder why they feel so empty. Let me tell you why. Because you cannot control everything. And the more you try, the weaker you become. Real mental strength is not found in controlling the uncontrollable. It's found in narrowing your focus, putting your energy into the things you can control, and letting go of the rest. You can't control the economy. You can't control whether it rains tomorrow. You can't control what somebody says about you behind your back, but you can control your response. You can control the choices you make, the effort you put in, the attitude you carry. That's where your power lies. And the sooner you stop wasting energy on the things outside of your reach, the sooner you'll find the strength to handle the things that are. Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the horrors of the Holocaust, understood this truth better than most. He lost his freedom, he lost his family, he lost everything except one thing: the power to choose his attitude. He said, "Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms: to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." Imagine that, in the middle of the darkest conditions a human being could face, he still claimed control over his mind, his spirit, his outlook. That is strength, that is freedom. But here's the problem. We've been trained to focus on everything but ourselves. We think if we worry enough, somehow we'll change the outcome. We think if we talk about what other people should or shouldn't do, somehow it will make them act differently. It won't. All it does is drain you. All it does is rob you of the energy you need for the things you can actually affect. And mental strength is about protecting that energy like your life depends on it, as it does. Think about a storm. You can't stop the wind, you can't hold back the rain, but you can grab an umbrella, you can board up your windows, you can prepare yourself. That's the difference. Weakness fights battles it can never win. Strength focuses on the ground where it can stand tall. So the question is, what can you do today? Not tomorrow, not next year, today. What action can you take, no matter how small, to move closer to where you want to be? Can you study a little harder? Can you save a little more? Can you practice discipline when nobody's watching? Those are the choices in your control. And when you consistently focus on them, when you pour your energy into them, the results compound. The small things you control today become the big victories tomorrow. But if you spend your life consumed with things you can't change, you'll live frustrated, bitter, and powerless. You'll complain about the government, complain about your boss, complain about your neighbors, complain about what they did to you. And all the while, your own choices, your own actions are sitting in front of you waiting for you to take control. That's why some people never grow. Not because life is harder for them, but because they're trying to control the wrong things. I want you to imagine carrying a backpack filled with bricks. Each brick represents something you can't control. The opinions of others, the weather, the traffic, the mistakes of the past. You carry it day after day, and it feels heavy. Now imagine setting that bag down. Imagine taking those bricks out one by one and saying, "This doesn't belong to me. This isn't mine to carry." How much lighter would you feel? How much freer would you walk? That's what happens when you stop trying to control what isn't yours. Mental strength doesn't come from knowing everything or fixing everything. It comes from clarity. It comes from focusing like a laser on the few things that are truly in your hands: your choices, your attitude, your effort, your discipline, your response. That's all you need, because that's all you really have. So let the world do what the world will do. Let the critics talk. Let the storms come. Let the chaos rage. Your job is not to control the noise. Your job is to control yourself. Because once you learn that, once you focus your energy on what's truly in your power, you stop being a victim of life and you start being the master of your own destiny. Let me tell you something, failure is not the enemy. It never was. Failure is the teacher that most people run away from, and that's why they never learn the lessons that make them strong. The mentally weak, they look at failure and see shame, see embarrassment, see the end of the road. But the mentally strong, they see failure for what it really is: feedback. A mirror that shows you where to grow, where to improve, where to sharpen yourself. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest to ever play the game, missed more than 9,000 shots. He lost almost 300 games. There were nights when he took the last shot and it didn't go in. But you know what he said? "I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Think about that. The very thing most people are running from was the very thing that gave him greatness. He didn't hide from failure, he embraced it. He didn't let it define him, he let it refine him. But here's the problem. We live in a world that treats failure like a curse. In school, if you fail, you're labeled. In society, if you stumble, people laugh, they point, they whisper. So we grow up afraid of falling. We play it safe, we avoid risks. And because of that, we never stretch ourselves to our full potential. But let me ask you, how can you learn to walk without falling? How can you learn to ride a bike without tipping over? Every great skill, every great accomplishment was built on a foundation of failures. Failure is not the end of the journey, it's the tuition you pay for success. You want to learn a new language. You're going to sound foolish at first. You want to start a business. You're going to make mistakes. You want to build a stronger body. You're going to struggle through workouts. Failure is the price of admission. And those who are mentally strong understand that every setback is an investment in their future strength. Think about Thomas Edison. Thousands of attempts before he got the light bulb right. Thousands. If failure defined him, we'd still be living in darkness. When a reporter asked him how it felt to fail so many times, Edison replied, "I didn't fail, I just found thousands of ways that didn't work." That's the mindset of mental strength. To see failure not as defeat, but as data. Not as the end, but as education. And yet, so many people quit right before the breakthrough. They let one rejection stop them. One no from somebody else becomes a no in their own mind. They give up not because they couldn't succeed, but because they were afraid of being labeled a failure. But listen closely, failure is not when you fall down. Failure is when you refuse to get back up. As long as you rise again, you are not defeated. Every scar on your journey tells a story. Every stumble teaches you something you couldn't have learned otherwise. Failure teaches resilience. It teaches humility. It teaches patience. And most importantly, it teaches courage. Because once you've fallen and stood back up, you stop being afraid of falling again. That's real power. Knowing you can survive the thing you were most afraid of. I want you to picture a child learning to walk. They stumble, they fall, they cry. But they don't quit. They grab the table, they steady themselves, they try again. And eventually they walk. Now imagine if that child stopped after the first fall. Imagine if they said, "This isn't for me, I'll just crawl the rest of my life." Sounds ridiculous, right? Yet that's exactly what adults do when they give up after one failure. They crawl through life when they were built to run, built to soar, built to rise. So don't run from failure. Don't hide from it.
Face it, learn from it, let it mold you.
Because the truth is, success without failure doesn't exist. Every person you admire, every success story you know, is written in the ink of failure. The only difference is they didn't quit when it came. And the next time failure knocks on your door, I want you to remember this. Failure is not trying and losing. Failure is never trying at all. Failure is not falling down. Failure is refusing to stand back up. And if you've got the courage to rise, if you've got the heart to keep going, then every so-called failure becomes the very stepping stone that leads you to greatness. Comparison is poison. The moment you measure your life against somebody else's highlight reel, you've already lost. We live in a world where comparison is everywhere. On our phones, on our screens, in our schools, in our jobs. Every time you scroll through social media, you're bombarded with images of people smiling on vacations, buying new cars, celebrating promotions, showing off what looks like perfect lives. But you and I both know those pictures don't tell the whole story. They don't show the tears, the failures, the sacrifices, the sleepless nights, the battles behind closed doors. And yet, we take their highlights and compare them to our behind the scenes. That's not fair. That's not real. And that's why comparison is so dangerous. It steals joy, it kills gratitude, and it blinds you to the beauty of your own journey. Mental strength is about running your race, not theirs. Your journey is yours. Your path is yours. The moment you start looking into somebody else's lane, you slow down in your own. Athletes know this better than anyone. Imagine a runner in the Olympics sprinting down the track. The finish line is right there, but instead of keeping their eyes forward, they glance left, they glance right, worried about who's ahead. That split second of distraction can cost them the race. Life works the same way. If you keep looking at what others are doing, you'll trip over your own feet. The truth is, the strongest version of you can only be built by you. Nobody else has your exact story. Nobody else has your scars, your lessons, your struggles, your dreams. And that's your power. You are not here to be a copy of anyone else. You're here to be an original. But comparison makes you forget that. Comparison whispers, you're not enough. You're behind. You're failing. And if you listen long enough, you'll believe it. You'll start living a life that's not even yours. Chasing goals that don't belong to you. Measuring yourself with someone else's ruler. Carrying a weight that was never meant for your shoulders. I've seen people destroy their peace because they couldn't stop looking sideways. A young man works hard at his job, makes progress, provides for his family, but then he sees his friend driving a better car. Suddenly, all his blessings feel like nothing. A young woman studies night and day, graduates with honor, but then she sees someone else traveling the world. Suddenly, her accomplishment feels empty. This is what comparison does. It blinds you to the progress you've made. It minimizes the victories you've earned. It convinces you that where you are is not enough. But let me remind you, your timeline is your timeline. Some people find success at 20, others at 50. Some get married early, some never do. Some build businesses, some raise families, some change the world quietly in ways nobody claps for. Life is not a race against them. It's a test of endurance for you. The only finish line that matters is yours. And you don't know what battles that other person is fighting behind their smile. You don't know what storms they're hiding behind their sunshine. So why envy a life you don't fully understand? Mental strength means having the discipline to keep your eyes forward. To say, I'm not competing with anyone else. I'm competing with the man I was yesterday. I'm competing with the woman I was last year. I'm not trying to outdo you. I'm trying to outgrow me. That shift in mindset is freedom. That's when you stop carrying the unnecessary weight of envy. That's when you find peace. That's when you finally give yourself permission to grow at your own pace. I remember reading about a bamboo tree. For years after it's planted, nothing seems to happen. You water it, you nurture it, but nothing breaks through the ground. To the outside world, it looks like failure. But beneath the soil, its roots are spreading, deepening, strengthening. And then in a single year, it shoots up almost 90 feet tall. Now imagine if that tree compared itself to the rose bush next to it, blooming in weeks. Imagine if it gave up because its growth looked too slow. That's what comparison does. It makes you doubt the season you're in, when in reality, your roots might be preparing you for something extraordinary. So stop looking sideways. Run your race. If someone else wins today, cheer for them, but don't question your worth. If someone else is ahead of you, celebrate them, but don't slow down. The race you're running is yours alone, and there's no medal for finishing first. There's only the reward of knowing you gave your best, stayed your course, and became the strongest version of yourself. Because at the end of the day, nobody else can be you. Nobody else can walk your path. Nobody else can tell your story. And the moment you stop comparing and start focusing, you'll realize you never needed to be in anybody else's lane. You just needed to run yours with everything you've got. Anger, jealousy, fear. These emotions can destroy you if you don't learn to master them. They're powerful forces, and if you let them take the wheel, they'll drive your life straight off a cliff. But hear me clearly, mental strength is not about pretending you don't feel these emotions. You're human, not a robot. You're going to feel hurt, you're going to feel betrayed, you're going to feel scared. That's life. The key is not letting those feelings dictate your actions. Because the moment you lose control, you lose the power to decide who you want to be. Think about anger. How many lives have been destroyed in a single moment of uncontrolled rage? How many friendships ended, marriages broken, opportunities lost because somebody couldn't take a breath before they reacted? One word spoken in anger can echo for years. One reckless action can undo decades of progress. But the opposite is also true. A person who learns to pause, to breathe, to think before they respond, can turn a conflict into peace, an insult into wisdom, a test into triumph. And jealousy, it's a thief. It steals your joy, your gratitude, your peace. You see someone else succeed, and instead of clapping for them, you feel resentment burning inside. But jealousy is really a mirror. It shows you what you desire, but it tricks you into thinking someone else's blessing means your loss. That's not true. Their victory doesn't cancel your path, But if you let jealousy take control, it will make you bitter, it will make you small, and it will distract you from your own purpose. And then there's fear. Fear has killed more dreams than failure ever has. Fear whispers, don't try, don't risk, don't step out, you'll lose. You'll embarrass yourself. And if you let fear run your life, you'll never move. You'll stay safe, but you'll also stay stuck. The people who achieve greatness aren't fearless. They just learn to act in spite of fear. They feel it, but they don't bow to it. That's control. Now think of the leaders who changed history. They weren't people who never felt emotion. They were people who learned how to direct it. They faced hate, violence, rejection, yet they stayed calm, strategic, and focused. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. faced threats, humiliation, jail, and still he stood with dignity, preaching peace instead of hate. Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for 27 years, yet when he was finally free, he didn't let bitterness poison his vision. He chose forgiveness, unity, and reconciliation. That's not weakness. That's strength beyond measure. To feel the fire inside you but not let it consume you. That's what separates the strong from the weak. Emotional control is not about suppression. It's about redirection. It's about channeling that energy into something higher. Anger can destroy, but it can also fuel change when it's disciplined. Fear can paralyze, but it can also sharpen your focus when you refuse to bow to it. Even pain, when embraced, can become the foundation for resilience. The question is, will you let your emotions be your master, or will you be their master? I once heard a story of a soldier who said, "The scariest moment isn't on the battlefield. It's before the first step forward." That's fear. But once you take that step, once you move forward in spite of it, you realize fear has no power unless you feed it. It's the same with anger, the same with jealousy. They only grow when you feed them. But when you recognize them, when you name them, when you pause and choose differently, they lose their grip. Let's get practical. Emotional control doesn't happen overnight. It's built through habits. When anger rises, pause, count to 10. Breathe, step away if you have to. That small pause could save you years of regret. When jealousy creeps in, shift your focus. Write down what you're grateful for. Gratitude kills jealousy. And when fear whispers in your ear, don't argue with it, act. Take one small step forward. Action silences fear better than any speech. Mental strength is not a theory, it's a practice. And like anything else, it grows with training. The more you choose discipline over impulse, the stronger you get. The more you decide to rise above emotions instead of being dragged by them, the free you become. Imagine what your life would look like if you lived this way. Imagine relationships not ruined by anger, but strengthened by patience. Imagine waking up each day free from jealousy, grateful for what you have and hopeful for what's coming. Imagine fear not as a chain, but as a signpost pointing to where you need to grow. That's what's possible when you take control. And here's the truth, the world needs more people like that. Calm in the storm, strong in the struggle, focused when everyone else is distracted. That kind of strength doesn't just change your life, it changes the lives of everyone around you. People are watching you whether you realize it or not. Your children, your friends, your co-workers. They see how you react under pressure, and your control gives them courage. So don't run from your emotions. Don't pretend you don't feel them. Acknowledge them, face them, but don't let them run your life. You have a choice every single moment about who you're going to be. And real power, real strength, comes when you can say, I feel this fire inside me, but I will choose how it burns. That is true strength. Discipline is the backbone of mental strength, not motivation. Motivation is that spark you feel after watching a powerful video or hearing a moving speech. It's that rush of energy when you get excited about a goal. But here's the thing, that spark fades. The rush doesn't last. Motivation will get you started, but it won't keep you going when the road gets long and the nights get cold. What will? Discipline. That daily decision to show up no matter how you feel. That quiet commitment you make to yourself that says, even when I don't feel like it, I will do it. See, motivation is emotional, but discipline is spiritual. Motivation depends on your mood, but discipline is a decision. Motivation listens to your feelings, but discipline listens to your purpose. And the truth is, it's discipline that separates the dreamers from the doers. Everybody dreams. Everybody says they want to succeed, they want to grow, they want to change. But when the alarm rings at 5 a.m., when the workout feels heavy, when the exam is weeks away and the books look boring, when the job feels draining, that's when discipline speaks. That's when the question becomes, do you do it anyway? Wake up early even when the bed feels warm and the world is still sleeping. Study when you don't feel like it, when the distraction of scrolling through your phone calls louder than the quiet of your books. Save when you'd rather spend, when the new shoes look tempting, but your future demands sacrifice. Train when you'd rather sleep, because you know your body doesn't grow strong through comfort, but through resistance. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not flashy. It doesn't feel good in the moment. But over time, it carves out strength, builds resilience, and creates a life of stability and power. Think of athletes. The greatest ones don't just show up on game day. They show up every day. They run drills when nobody's watching. They take shots in the dark gym when everyone else has gone home. They eat with discipline, sleep with discipline, practice with discipline. That's why when the lights are bright and the world is watching, they shine. They shine because discipline built a foundation that motivation alone could never create. The same is true in every area of life. A student who disciplines themselves to study consistently, even in small doses, will always outperform the one who studies only when they feel inspired. A worker who disciplines themselves to learn new skills, to keep showing up on time, to stay steady under pressure will rise above the one who only gives effort when the mood is right. A parent who disciplines themselves to be present, to listen, to sacrifice for their children will raise a generation stronger than themselves. Discipline is not just about success, it's about legacy. Now, let's be real, discipline isn't easy, it's hard. It requires saying no when every part of you wants to say yes. It requires delayed gratification, choosing pain now for reward later. It requires training your mind to lead your body, instead of letting your body lead your mind. And yes, there will be days when you fail, when you break your promise, when you stumble. But discipline isn't about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about getting back up when you fall, starting again when you stop, and reminding yourself why you began in the first place. And the beauty of discipline is this: it compounds. Just like money in the bank, small, consistent deposits of discipline turn into wealth over time. You may not see the results immediately. You may feel like your efforts are invisible, but day by day, brick by brick, you're building a fortress of strength. One day, you'll look back and realize those little choices, the mornings you got up early, the nights you stayed focused, the temptations you resisted, those were the moments that made you unshakable. Without discipline, life feels chaotic. With discipline, life feels anchored. Without discipline, emotions drive your decisions. With discipline, values drive your decisions. Without discipline, storms knock you down. With discipline, you bend, but you don't break, because discipline builds resilience, and resilience is the armor of the strong. Look at history. Every great leader, every innovator, every hero you admire had one thing in common: discipline. They weren't always the smartest, the fastest, the most talented, but they were the most consistent. They endured when others quit. They stayed steady when others got distracted. That's why their names are remembered, because discipline carried them through the obstacles that talent alone could not overcome. So the question for you today is simple. Are you relying on motivation, or are you cultivating discipline? Because motivation may inspire you for a moment, but discipline will shape your life for a lifetime. Don't wait to feel like doing it. Do it, and the feeling will follow. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Discipline creates the moment. Don't wait for the crowd to cheer. Discipline is showing up even when there's silence. Remember, this discipline is freedom. It's the freedom to control your life instead of being controlled by your impulses. It's the freedom to choose long-term victory over short-term comfort. It's the freedom to look in the mirror and know you're becoming who you were meant to be. Discipline may feel like sacrifice now, but it leads to strength, resilience, and an unshakable life. Yes, mental strength comes from within, but never underestimate the power of your environment. You can have the best intentions, the biggest dreams, the strongest will, but if you spend your time in the wrong atmosphere, you'll find your fire slowly fading. Because the truth is, energy is contagious. Negativity spreads like poison, and so does greatness. That's why who you allow into your circle will either elevate you or drain you. If you're surrounded by people who complain all the time, who gossip, who make excuses for why they can't, eventually you'll start to carry their weight. You'll start to mirror their mindset. And it won't happen overnight. It's subtle. It's like smoke filling a room. At first, you don't notice it, but slowly it chokes the life out of you. That's why you've got to be intentional about your environment. You've got to guard your circle like it's sacred, because it is. But when you surround yourself with people who push you, who believe in you, who challenge you to rise higher, suddenly you're stronger than you thought. You see possibilities you couldn't see before. You start moving differently, thinking differently, acting differently. Because iron sharpens iron. Greatness calls greatness out of you. Think about this: when you put a piece of coal next to a diamond, they both came from the same place, pressure. But what separates them is what they became under that pressure. When you surround yourself with people who stayed coal, you risk staying coal yourself. But when you put yourself around diamonds, you feel the pressure to shine, to grow, to become more than what you were yesterday. That's the power of your circle. Look at history. Look at every movement that changed the world. It wasn't just one person, it was a circle. Martin Luther King Jr. had a circle of dreamers and leaders who stood with him. Nelson Mandela had people around him who kept the vision alive even in his darkest days. Even the most iconic athletes, yes, they have individual talent, but they also have teammates, coaches, mentors who sharpen them. Nobody rises alone. Your strength multiplies when the people around you match your hunger. But here's the hard truth: choosing the right circle means letting go of the wrong one. And that's not easy. Some of those people may be friends you've known for years, even family. But if their presence pulls you down, if every time you leave their company you feel drained, discouraged, or small, you've got to make a choice. Protect your growth or protect their comfort, because both can't exist at the same time. That doesn't mean you stop loving people. It doesn't mean you look down on anyone. It simply means you draw boundaries. You decide who gets access to your energy. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Some people were only meant to teach you a lesson, not walk with you through life. You've got to have the courage to recognize when a chapter is over. And here's the beauty of it. When you let go of the wrong people, you make space for the right ones. The ones who see your potential when you doubt yourself. The ones who call you out when you get lazy. The ones who don't let you settle for mediocrity because they know you were made for more. Those are the voices you need. Those are the people who will remind you of your vision when you're ready to quit. So look around you. Who's in your circle? Who's speaking into your life? Do they feed your faith or feed your fear? Do they push you forward or hold you back? Do they celebrate your wins or secretly resent them? The answers to those questions will tell you everything you need to know. I'll tell you this: mental strength is not just about how hard you can push yourself. It's about who's walking beside you. When you fall, who picks you up? When you succeed, who claps for you? When you doubt yourself, who reminds you of who you are? That's why you must choose wisely, because life is already hard. The storms are real, the challenges are heavy, the journey is long. The wrong people will make it unbearable, but the right people will make it possible. They'll walk with you, fight for you, believe with you. And when your fire runs low, they'll help keep it burning. So decide today, are you going to let negativity, gossip, and excuses shape your environment? Or are you going to build a circle that inspires, challenges, and strengthens you? The choice is yours, because in the end, your circle is your mirror. Surround yourself with greatness, and greatness will reflect back at you. At the end of the day, when the lights go out and the noise fades, the strongest minds are anchored in faith. Not in circumstances, not in people, not even in their own strength alone, but in something greater: faith in God, faith in purpose, faith that no matter how dark the night gets, the sun will rise again. Because fear is loud, but faith is louder. Fear will whisper, "You can't," but faith will declare, "Watch me." Fear will tell you to stop, but faith will give you the courage to take one more step. And it's in that one more step that breakthroughs are born. We live in a world that feeds fear every single day. Turn on the news, scroll through your phone, listen to the conversations around you. Fear is everywhere. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of loss, fear of the unknown. And if you're not careful, that fear will creep into your heart and paralyze you before you even try. But that's where faith separates the strong from the weak. Because faith doesn't need to see the whole staircase. It just takes the first step. Think about it. Every great dreamer, every great leader, every great pioneer, what did they have in common? Faith. They stepped out when there was no guarantee. They moved forward when the world laughed. They believed when there was no evidence to back it up. That's what makes faith powerful. It's not tied to what you see. It's tied to what you know deep inside. When you walk with faith, you walk with power. Because faith gives you perspective. It tells you this storm is not the end. It's the beginning of your strength. It tells you